Well, this is a very straightforward move by the Raiders administration. It's a clear message to defensive coordinator Antonio Pierce: shape up or ship out. After the recent firings of offensive coordinator Luke Getsy and two other coaches, all eyes are on Pierce as he steers the team through the rest of the season. Let's take a closer look at how these changes will affect Pierce and the Raiders. With a record of 2-7, the pressure is mounting. If Pierce wants to keep his job beyond this season, he needs to turn things around fast. And if you somehow missed the coaching shakeup, it was little surprising being a Raiders fan. The Raiders parted ways with Getsy, quarterback coach Rich Scangarello, and offensive line coach James Cregg. It's a drastic move, but when you're in the NFL, winning is the only option. In today's story, we will update you about the latest hot issues and moves Raiders are going through, so make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. Now, Antonio Pierce has decided to give the team the entire week off to regroup. But honestly, after a firing like that, it's not a good move. The Raiders are built on a commitment to excellence, and we, the fans, expect better. Pierce needs to realize that his job is on the line. With just 8 games left, it's time for him to start winning if he wants to secure his position moving forward. It's worth pondering how this team managed to pull off a victory against the Baltimore Ravens earlier this season. The Ravens game might go down as one of the wildest in NFL history, yet somehow nobody seems to care. After losing 5 straight games, it's almost mind-boggling how the Raiders managed to pull off a win against a Ravens team that clearly wasn't at its best. Sure, they did manage to beat the Cleveland Browns, but let's be real, they got a bit lucky with some calls, like that 80-yard touchdown from Amari Cooper being called back. Winning against a team considered one of the worst in the league isn't exactly a strong point. And right now, the Raiders look like they could be among the worst teams in the NFL on both offense and defense. Does the late firing could really make a difference? It seems that the recent happening only built pressure on the coaching staff, and in such chaos, a groundbreaking performance is merely a dream. Fans and players alike are beginning to lose faith in the coaching staff, which is a significant reason for the firings of Getsy, Scangarello, and Cregg. One question that keeps popping into my mind is this: why did Antonio Pierce hire these coaches in the first place? Why bring in guys who failed in their previous roles and expect different results? It just doesn't make sense. This brings us to another key message from Mark Davis. The Raiders wouldn't fire 3 coaches if they were planning to tank. Many fans have wondered if the Raiders are indeed tanking based on some questionable decisions from the coaching staff. It's easy to think they're just not good at their jobs, right? But here's the deal. Mark Davis doesn't believe this team should be tanking. He wants to see if Antonio Pierce is the right fit for the job. Now that Getsy is out, Pierce can't hide behind him anymore. The same goes for Scangarello and Cregg. There are no more fall guys. The pressure is now squarely on Antonio Pierce. In fact, according to recent reports, Las Vegas Raiders owner Mark Davis has expressed dissatisfaction with the team's current performance under head coach Antonio Pierce. Following a 2-7 start to the season, Davis emphasized the need for improvement, stating, "We're not happy right now. We're not performing like we'd like to." This sentiment was underscored by the recent dismissal of offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, quarterbacks coach Rich Scangarello, and offensive line coach James Cregg, signaling a demand for better results. Davis's actions indicate that if the team's performance doesn't improve, Pierce's position as head coach could be in jeopardy. Mark Davis has made it abundantly clear. He expects Antonio Pierce to win, and he's got 8 games left to save his job. At the start of the season, many critics bet that Pierce wouldn't find himself on the hot seat. However, we also stated that if the Raiders went into their bye with only 2 wins or worse, things would heat up quickly. Looking ahead, the Raiders have a daunting schedule. They'll face the Miami Dolphins on the road, AFC West rival Denver Broncos, and then a challenging matchup against the Chiefs on Black Friday. Following that, they've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons, Jacksonville Jaguars, and New Orleans Saints, who just fired their head coach, Dennis Allen, before wrapping up the season against the Los Angeles Chargers. That's not an easy slate at all, folks. So here's a question. Did Luke Getsy deserve a lot of the blame for the Raiders' struggles? Absolutely. Will the offense be better without him calling the plays? Well, to be honest, it's hard to imagine anyone being worse than Getsy. However, we must face the facts. Antonio Pierce needs to take a hard look in the mirror. Yes, the Raiders' offense struggled against Cincinnati, but let's not forget the defense gave up 41 points. In fact, it could have been even worse. Both the offense and defense have been underperforming, and this team is struggling across the board. The only way Antonio Pierce keeps his job is if this team starts winning. Firing Luke Getsy could actually be a smart move for the Las Vegas Raiders in the long run. Yes, it seems frustrating, and some are even saying, hey, maybe we should have kept Getsy to secure that #1 overall pick. It seems the season feels pretty much over, and having a worse record could improve our draft position. But here's the thing. Building for the future means making tough decisions now. The firing of Luke Getsy might be a positive development for the Raiders in the long run. While fans are disappointed, it provides an opportunity to assess Antonio Pierce's coaching abilities more accurately. Without Getsy as a potential scapegoat, Pierce's performance will be under scrutiny. This is a crucial moment for Pierce to prove his worth as a head coach. The play-calling responsibilities are still undecided, with Scott Turner being a potential candidate. Pierce plans to make a final decision within the next 48 hours. Antonio Pierce must motivate the Raiders to perform strongly after the bye week. A lackluster performance could have serious consequences for his coaching career. He needs to inspire the team to play with intensity and avoid complacency. Mark Davis made a bold move by firing Getsy. It's clear he's not happy with the team's performance, and Pierce is now squarely in the hot seat. Firing Getsy sends a strong message to the players that everyone, including the coaches, is responsible for the team's performance. No one is exempted. Antonio Pierce must hold his players responsible for their performance, just as he holds his coaching staff accountable. This culture shift has been long overdue for the Raiders. In the past, there seemed to be a lack of discipline and responsibility within the organization, leading to years of mediocrity. The Raiders' recent coaching changes, particularly the firing of Luke Getsy, signal a shift towards a more accountability-based culture. Mark Davis and the organization must lead by example, ensuring that underperformance has consequences. Antonio Pierce has the opportunity to establish a culture of accountability by making tough decisions and holding players accountable for their performance. This approach can help the Raiders build a winning foundation and improve their on-field results. Firing Getsy could be a strategic move for the Raiders. It offers Pierce an opportunity to demonstrate his coaching abilities and establish a winning culture. However, simply surviving the season is not enough. Pierce must instill a winning mindset and ensure player buy-in to the team system. Now let's zoom out and consider the larger context and analyze the whole scenario. The Raiders have a history of poor decisions when it comes to coaching and player personnel. They need to learn from their mistakes, and that starts with being honest about what's not working. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. This phrase should be the mantra for everyone associated with the Raiders right now. It's not enough to just fire coaches and hope for the best. It's about making the necessary changes and committing to a new direction. Antonio Pierce has an opportunity to make his mark as a head coach, but he needs to act decisively. He can't be afraid to bench players who aren't performing or make tough decisions about playing time. The time for experimenting is over. It's time for results. This is his chance to show that he can take the reins and lead this team to victory. The Raiders have potential, and they've got some talented players, but without strong leadership and accountability, they'll continue to flounder. It's going to take a collective effort from everyone involved to turn things around, but it starts with Antonio Pierce and his willingness to embrace the challenge ahead. So there you have it, Raiders Nation. Antonio Pierce has been given a golden opportunity, but he needs to seize it. Will he rise to the occasion, or will he become just another footnote in the Raiders' long history of coaching woes? Only time will tell. How many wins do you think the Raiders will finish with this season? Stay connected with us for more updates on Raiders.